Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your planets, know yourself. Now, in my last video, I was kind of talking a bit about shadow, and maybe doing a video about that. And there was quite a few people requested that I do a video on shadow, and this is something I definitely will do. But then the whole Meghan and Harry situation happened, and you know what? I was going to let the whole thing pass me by. I genuinely was. I was going to let it pass me by because I just thought, it's a bit of hoo-ha and whatnot. And then my friend Sarah, so big shout out to Sarah, so you can thank her for this video. And we were talking about the interview, and she's like, "You've got to do something on Meghan and Harry." Yeah, let me have a little slurp of my herbal tea. And I thought, yeah, actually, I probably should. And I saw a little bit of the build up because, of course, this infamous interview came out in America first. What was it, CNBC or something like that? But Oprah, yeah, Oprah, who of course is the queen of television. You know, we got Queen Elizabeth II, and you guys have got Oprah, yeah, in terms of television and stuff like that. And I thought, you know what, I thought I would have a look. And my friend Sarah was saying I'd love to see the charts, and I was thinking of actually just reacting, just doing a standard reaction without the charts. And then I thought, you know what, that's a really good point. So guess what? Of course, I did the charts. Oh my goodness. This is the chart for Meghan. This is like, I do the small printouts and I just make notes in there, for the details, highlighting the key houses. And this is the chart for Harry, yeah? And Harry's chart, let me tell you, is fascinating. And I'm going to cover both, and I'll start with Meghan. But first of all, I mean, wow, just wow. I mean, I've not seen this many revelations on a screen since Aretha Franklin did a cover of "Touch My Body," yeah, by Mariah Carey. And that was a sight to behold. Yeah, many revelations. I might even put a little link in that just so you guys can see, and I might try and drop in a little picture as well. Sometimes I do that. But it was just one revelation after the other. And it was truly jaw-dropping stuff. I mean, this is fascinating. It touched on so many different things, and there were many things in there that were a surprise. Now, when it comes to the royal family, let's just think, this is like a nigh on 1500-year institution. Yeah, we need to remember that. The royal family will probably survive this, but this is a really shakes many things to the foundations, because of just the whole context of it all and just how things happened. And also as well, what a missed opportunity as well. What a missed opportunity. And it was also showing as well repeated mistakes. So before we even get onto the whole kind of race thing, yeah, let's actually just look at what is it that the firm has with any woman who's in the royal family who is not a queen, yeah? Because there is, as you know, I've written this book on the whole dynamics of the British personality via the nation's birth chart of 1st of January 1801. And I finished this book back in October, and then I just got so ridiculously busy, as you guys know. And then I've taken most of March off. I mean, I'm still doing consultations, but much less than I would normally be. So this has given me time to kind of rest and recover. But of course, it's given me this extra impetus to actually, finish, start the edit of this book, because it is so important to the British psyche. And in fact, I think I'm actually going to add an extra chapter to the book about, Meghan and Harry in the dynamics of what I'd already established. Now, this is fascinating. Why is this such a loaded thing? Why is this such a hoo-ha? Now, this is one of the things I've discussed with my friends privately, but as you know, I have a global audience, and a lot of my subscribers as well are also based in America. And as you know, I've also been exploring the archetypes as well. And I'll tell you something, there's a quirk that Britain has, and I think this is fair to say. There are many royal families in the world, as we know. But when we say the royal family, everyone knows what we mean. Yeah, we're talking about the British, the UK royal family. Now, why is that? And I've reached the conclusion that Britain holds the archetype for royalty for the whole world. Yeah, we're Greenwich Mean Time, but there is this thing about the British crown that seems to exemplify everything of what royalty is about. And we really do have big archetypes at play. And one of the obvious ones, of course, is the prince and the princess, which was actually very neatly alluded to by Meghan, because remember, she mentioned the Little Mermaid, and I thought that was fascinating. And she was talking about the girl that marries the prince and loses her voice, but then gets it back. But it also made me think as well of this, because the original tale, of course, was Hans Christian Andersen. And his Little Mermaid is really quite dark, and maybe in some ways actually quite a bit closer to Meghan's, because the whole part of the archetype of the princess, or the shadow of the princess archetype, is confinement of some kind. Think of how many tales there are of princesses confined to towers, yeah, or palaces. I mean, we even saw that, I think, in Saudi Arabia recently. One of the princesses spoke out, because she was basically locked up by her father. Now, of course, with Meghan, this is slightly different, because, she was an actor, extremely successful one, wealthy as well. And you can also see that in her chart, and we'll cover that. Let me just have a little slurp of my lemon water. So you can see all of that. But when she married the firm, that is really when her confinement began. Yeah, it's almost like once she got married, it triggered that archetype, because then she was bona fide a princess, yeah, or duchess even. And then we see that's really when the tide started to turn. Now, there is something remarkable, yeah, and this is something Diana had, and this is something all princesses have, and it's princess power. Yeah, princess power, remember that. Now, part of what princess power is about is the ability to, it's part of the anima, in terms of, it's a feminine archetype, part of the divine feminine. And when the princess is in her power, she is radiant, she is shining. Her charisma will transcend and move the masses just by her stepping into that energy alone, because it's a feminine, it's a feminine energy. It's an the feminine principle is based around attraction, drawing to, and the masculine principle is based on action in terms of acting out. So you could see how the crowds were drawn to Meghan, yeah, when they went on the Australia tour. And it shows as well, Harry is no one would necessarily say that, oh, he's a genius, yeah, but his emotional intelligence is very high, and also as well, he's very spiritual. And he drew the comparison between when Charles was with Diana in Australia and what happened then. And that's when the rot started to set in as well for their relationship. And Harry said, I could see history repeating itself, because that was an example of Meghan having this princess power, although she's a commoner technically. But so's Kate, but the effect is not quite the same. Yeah, it's not quite the same. And obviously there were people in the firm that saw that, and for some reason there is this issue that the firm has with the princess archetype, because we know Diana got it totally, and like Harry said, she got it, and then Meghan's getting on top with her ethnicity as well. And then of course, but for Sarah Ferguson, she got a rough time as well. You remember the toe sucking stuff? I mean, like, oh my God. And the Duchess of Pork. Oh man, I talk about that in the book as well, because let me tell you, the British press, there's a quirk that we have. The British press is vicious when they don't like you. Utterly vindictive and vicious, as we have seen. And it's so interesting because Harry was talking about the fear, actually quite the legitimate fear in the royal family about being on the wrong side of the press. Because as we know, as we've seen, the press has a huge influence. I mean, if we look at, all media, but right-wing media or whatever in the United States, we can see it has a huge influence. And media has the ability to cast a lot of spells. And what I found really interesting was, because there was a massive story at the time about Meghan making Kate cry. Now this, a lot of this went over my head, but it was a big hoo-ha at the time. And to find out it was the other way round, that everybody knew, everyone was briefing the press saying, or the contacts were saying, this is not true. And Meghan actually, being quite nice to Kate, saying, look, she apologized that she's a good person, and, we kind of made our peace. And it's just extraordinary as well when you compare the portrayals, when versus Kate pregnant and blah, 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 and when Meghan was pregnant. And this is all, extraordinary. And you can see that as well. It's like, with the avocado thing, I didn't even know about the avocado toast. First of all, they shouldn't be paying that much attention to what either Kate or Meghan is spreading on their toast, but whatever. So Kate spreads avocado on her toast or has some meal with avocado, and they kind of bring up all of this kind of nice connotations and stuff like that. Meghan has avocado on her toast and she's the scourge of the world, practically burning forests, practically burning down the Amazon on her own. And it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous, and it's nakedly obvious. And the whole thing as well with the, how dark is the baby going to be? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, well, first of all, I mean, let's just think about this. Harry's obviously Caucasian. He's white. Meghan is mixed raced. She's half white. So, why was that even a thing in the mind? Like, what, like, I mean, I don't know. This is such tricky territory, isn't it? But it's ridiculous. I mean, come on. We're talking about a mixed race woman that could struggle to pass for Spanish, let alone black. Do you know what I mean? And they're worried about what kind of color the baby's going to turn out. I mean, please. That is just a joke. And I love the thing Sky, we've got Sky News over here, which is a Murdoch operation, by the way, but they were very brave. and they got Gina Yashere and two other ladies, two strong. So we have three strong women of color commenting on the royal family, and oh my God, they didn't hold back. They cussed the whole thing out, and Sky played it, but they made some very good points. So really, you know, we all know really what this is about, and it's unfortunate. But the thing that was, I think, most sad, aside from the, you know, the racism, whatever. I mean, look, this is an institution at the end of the day. What was nice was that they said, you know, it had nothing to do with the Queen or the Duke of Edinburgh. I mean, these are seasoned people. The Queen has seen every single colour of person on planet Earth, his wife and then some on top, yeah? Very, very wise and seasoned, experienced person, yeah? Not likely to be befuddled by such things. And also as well, what should be mentioned too, is that Meghan was not quite the first black royal. There actually was, oh my goodness, I've just forgotten her name, Queen Charlotte. There we are, the 1700s. I can't remember which year exactly. I'll probably have to do a little bit of research and then just put it up in italics up in the picture. She was a princess from Spain, yeah, and she had Moorish blood, which is another word for a bit of colour, yeah, a bit of brown going on. And yes, so she essentially was black, but in all the portrayals and pictures of her, they lightened her up, yeah, because that was a bit of a hoo-ha. But this was the 1700s, yeah. It's now 2021, yeah. This is plus 300 years and whatnot later, so you know, there's really no excuse. And also as well, let's just talk about as well, what a missed opportunity. What, like Harry said, Meghan would have been that perfect kind of mascot, you know, that the royal family could have employed to, you know, go around the world, Commonwealth and all that kind of stuff. She would have been a wonderful kind of brooch and adornment, yeah? Maybe not quite like the ones that Princess Michael of Kent is quite fond of, you know, blackamoor brooch. I mean, what an outrage, you know, your first kind of dinner with the family and, you know, Auntie Princess, Auntie what's her face, has got a blackamoor brooch, you know, gleaming there. And it's like, hello, Meghan, you know, ting. Oh man, you just got to laugh. You just got to laugh sometimes at all, because really it's all petty at the end of the day. We're all human beings. Really, skin color is irrelevant, and particularly when we look at the charts. Now, this brings me neatly round, because honestly, astrology does not lie. So first of all, let's start with Meghan. So we can just see what is going on. What are these tectonic forces that were brought together? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to point to her chart here. Of course, because that's more, it's more bold and it's more clear. But then I'll read off my notes here that I made last night, because, you know, there may be things that I would miss. So first off the bat, and I'm going to try and make sure that this video is not too long, but it might end up being 50 minutes or so. Let's see. So Meghan Markle, birth chart, born 4th of August 1981 at 4:45 in the morning. Yeah, a very peaceful time in the morning to be born. She is a Cancer ascendant, but not only that, she is a double Cancerian. Yeah, she's a double Cancerian. Because her sun is also in the sign of Cancer. And she has got 3 planets in the first house. Now, what is the first house? The first house is you, the physical body, how you come across, people's first impressions of you. The first house sets the whole, and the ascendant sets the whole kind of lordships of which planets run which house. Let me just make sure that I've not forgotten anything as well. Let me just double check. So yes, it deals with the top of the head, physical body, constitution, personality, first impressions, appearance, character, birth into the world, and it is a Kendra and a trine. So it's an angular house and it's a trinal house. Very powerful. Any planets in the first house, as my clients will well know, because I always mention this, have a disproportionate influence. So who is there? We have got Mercury, yeah, which is the planet of communication. Yeah, it's the planet of communication. And Mercury has got a lot to do with acting as well, because it's mutable, it can change, it's adaptable, it can take on different personas. Yeah, and there's another thing as well. A lot of Cancerians, a lot of Leos become actors, but Cancerians in particular, yeah? And it's because planet Mars rules the 5th house of creativity. We can see there's some action here, and children. And the 10th house of career, and we can see Chiron is here as well. So I'll explain that without going into so much detail that we don't have time for Harry. So we can see here there's a mutability, there's an adaptability, there is a gift for communication, and we see this, and you could see that in the interview as well. The tremendous fluidity of Meghan's language. She is just able just to present and speak and present things very well. That's got a lot to do with Mercury in the 1st house, because Mercury is a planet of communication. But not only that, she's got the sun in the 1st house. And I must mention as well, Mercury doesn't do so well in water signs, however, because water signs are very emotional. And in order to make wise decisions in life, there are times where, see, I'm talking now the phlegm's coming up. There are times where we have to be more distant from our emotions to make the right choice. So what this can show is that the feelings, as we saw in the interview, are a huge part of Meghan's decision-making process. And on top of that, she's a double Cancerian. So it's all, Cancer is all about what? The emotions, nurturing, support, safety, security. Yeah, this is paramount in her mind. Sorry folks, I'm actually drinking a nice little herbal tea with some mint in it. We should clear up the throat. Anyway, so there's that. But she's also got the sun. Now the sun is the kingdom. Yeah, the sun is the kingdom where we're building our kingdom in this lifetime, quite literally. Remember, this is her main chart, and we're going to look at her Navamsha as well. But it means that she's building the kingdom in her body, in herself. Yeah, it's about her shining. Yeah, that's what this placement means. And not only that, she's got Rahu in the 1st house, which is the point of destiny, fate and destiny. Anyone that has got Rahu in the 1st house and the sun in the 1st house as well to boot, it's any planet in the 1st house, it's about self-actualization. Yeah, and it's often a place of coming from humble beginnings and rising to great prominence. Yeah, and of course we know that, you know, she had humble beginnings. Her beginnings were a lot more humble than Kate's, let's put it that way. Not that we should compare, but do you know what I mean? For argument's sake, because they've been compared in the media anyway. So we see here, so there is a lot of willpower here. There's a lot of having to discover the identity. Now now the sun is strong in the sign of Cancer, because the sun and the moon are husband and wife, king and queen. What's also interesting, which is just twigged to me, this also puts Meghan's 1st house in the 10th house of the UK chart, where the moon is, where the full moon is, very, very bright. And this is part of why female royalty, in particular from Britain, goes global. And I've just noticed, oh my goodness, her sun is there in the first house. And it means that intense scrutiny, because the 10th house is about pressure. It's about dharma, it's about name and fame, but it's about pressure. And her sun and ascendant, oh my goodness. This could also be the throat chakra. Because obviously, you know, I'm talking about a very pertinent topic, and now the phlegm's coming up. Sorry, folks, but sometimes it just can't be helped. Anyway, so this falls into the 10th house of the UK chart. Very, very close to that full moon. Diana had a similar thing as well, yeah? So there is that energy there, but for her it just turned into a lot of scrutiny, and we'll see why. So anyway, powerful first house. It's about self-actualization, sharing one's voice. And we need to remember that she's been sharing her voice for a long time. Meghan has been a campaigner since she was a little girl. She actually wrote to the White House about an advert that she thought was sexist, because it was just showing the mum doing the washing up all the time. And she said, why does it have to be? Someone in the White House listened to her, and the advert got changed. But check it out. This is when she was a little girl. So she's been an advocate, a speaker, a communicator for a long time. And because the sun is there, it means that is part of her kingdom, is sharing herself with the world. And what is she? She's an actor. We look here at her second house. And what have I written here? So I've put here, so here we are, because Rahu deals with innovation as well. So innovation in exploring something exploring something, and is outspoken and independent. You know, I wrote this late last night, I can barely read my own handwriting. So we see that obvious trait with Meghan. Second house. Now, in here, there is a powerful yoga, because for Cancerian ascendants, Venus is Lord of the 4th house via Libra, and Lord of the 11th house of gains via Taurus, which both signs belong to Venus, which is the planet of luxury and wealth. So then we look to see where Venus goes. So the Lord of the 4th, and the 4th house also deals with luxuries and real estate. Yeah, remember that, luxuries and real estate. 11th house, great gains, particularly from the friend circle and all of that kind of stuff. And where does it go? To the 2nd house of money, family values and finance in Leo. Yeah. So whenever you have the 2nd and the 11th in particular connected, either by conjunction, opposition, or nakshatra, etc., this is a powerful wealth yoga. And we see here as well, Meghan also has an extremely powerful 3rd house. And the 3rd house also shows our ability to earn, because the 2nd house shows the potential. The 3rd house shows the efforts put forth to actually make that money. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 planets there in her 3rd house. Meghan was an independently rich and successful woman before she met Harry. So no one can say that she's after his money. That's if you notice, that's, you know, she can spread avocado on toast and be responsible for the hole in the ozone layer and deforestation. But have you noticed not one person has said anything that she was after Harry for his money? Because she had her own, and if anything, you know, that would have been the first time that he would have dated someone that actually had genuinely amassed their own fortune. Because remember, this is something that Harry until now has never had the opportunity to do, because we have the civil list, and you know, the royals are paid for by the taxpayers. Not very much, by the way. It's not even £1 per person a year, something like that. So it's not a great deal, but nonetheless, he's can you imagine how impressive that would have been for him to date someone that was only successful, but like a multi-millionaire in their own right, and literally had kind of, you know, earned their own money from their bootstraps. So this is, we need to look at things in that context as well. And also as well, what she was a spokesperson and ambassador for like UN and goodness knows what. But you know, doing that stuff, she had a platform. Anyway, so Venus is in Purva Falguni. Purva Falguni is the nakshatras of performers. Yeah? Many actors, performers, famous people, YouTubers. Yeah? My Rahu's in Purva Falguni are performers of some kind. It's a very extrovert part of the zodiac. Yeah? And Venus actually rules this nakshatra, so her Venus is extremely strong. Now there's stuff that you're going to see, this often happens with partners, where if a person's got a weak planet in their chart, it's often the partner that will make up for that weak planet, and vice versa. And the same is true for Meghan and Harry. Yeah? It's remarkable. Anyway, so her Venus is very powerful. It's a successful, beautiful, you know, wealthy woman. And if we rewind the tape, and let's throw in a bit of Ivanka here. Do you remember I was talking about beauty, how Venus in the first house can, you know, bestow beauty? And everyone's like, she's had plastic surgery. And it's like, yes, she has. Because when Venus is in the first house, there will be a preoccupation of wanting to always make sure you look your best. But remember what I added. When Venus is in the second house, which is the actual phase, then the person will be a natural beauty. Venus, Meghan Markle, Venus in the second house. Now, for all of the stuff that she's accused for, and it seems to be also plague and famine, one thing no one has ever accused Meghan of being is ugly. Really, is it? We all know she's a beauty, yeah? But there we are. This is actually given a very good example, and as far as I'm aware, I don't think she's had any surgery. But she just has a fresh, natural, beautiful look. Yeah, so we can all agree on that. But anyway, let's look at the third house. Now, this is where we actually start seeing the trouble come in. Yeah, this is where we start seeing some stuff, because I don't want this just to be everyone's just like, oh, you're just blowing air up, you know, up Meghan and blah, blah, blah. No one is perfect. Yeah, no one is perfect. So when we look here, this is the real challenge. But look how this house is overpowered. Yeah, it's got a big stellium in there. So it's a very powerful house. And we see Jupiter in there in the sign of Virgo, which is not the best sign for Jupiter. Yeah, not the best sign for Jupiter necessarily. Although it can make a person very humanitarian. Yeah, and interested in health and healing. We have got Pluto in there as well, which adds this intensity to it. It's in the sign of Chitra, which is the divine architect. Yes, this is about building things. But we see here as well that Saturn is in Virgo. Now that is a very good place. Yeah, that makes Saturn loves being in the third house. You want your malefics in the difficult houses. You want your malefics in the that's where they can do a lot of good. It gives a lot of determination. Yeah, a lot of willpower. Yeah. And what's interesting is, but we also see here, this is where the Jaws music plays. Because what we have here is Saturn with Moon. Now, as many of you know, I speak about this a lot with my clients, and whenever I see this combination, it's really tough. Yeah, it's tough enough when the Moon is in the sign of Saturn, let alone with Saturn. Yeah, because they say Saturn crushes or squeezes, pressurizes whatever planets share the same house as him. Now Jupiter can handle that pressure because he's a big planet on his own, and Pluto is very, very far away, but the Moon really struggles. But what's interesting though, there's another thing going on, because it's in the nakshatra of Hasta, and Hasta deals with hands, deals with talent, deals with skills. A person who's got great skills, great social skills again as well. So we've got Mercury in the first house, great at talking, speaking. And then we've got Hasta, which shows those skills as well. But there is a shadow to Hasta, which can be manipulation. Yeah, can be manipulation. It's a sign of great cunning, great intelligence and cleverness. Yeah. So she may not be quite as innocent. I mean, like when she said, "Oh, I didn't know about Harry and blah blah blah," you know, that's BS. I mean, we know that. I mean, there's pictures of her back in the day outside of Buckingham Palace. She had a bloody poster up on the wall, I'm sure, next to Diana, and probably was dressing up, you know, wearing the clothes or whatever. But so many girls have done that, yeah? So obviously she wasn't completely naive. However, what she did mention, I think, was very accurate, and many of the people have mentioned this. There is a difference from the outside looking in and being on the inside looking out. And as we know, it turns out Meghan was experiencing an early version of lockdown before the rest of the country. Oh man, they take your passport away and your keys and your driver's license. Oh man, that sounds like confinement to me. And again, it fits in with the princess archetype. So if we look here, 4 planets in the 3rd house. Let's remind ourselves what the 3rd house is about so we can see how this kind of stuff is just so accurate. Anyway, so look, 3rd house deals with the hands, the arms, the upper lungs, hearing. Deals with courage, life force, the creative arts. All forms of communication. Yeah? Deals with competition, siblings, sales, travel, writing, self-employment, and entertainers of all kinds. Kaboom! She's an actress. This is the house of artisans, and she's got 3 of those planets in Hasta. So she's got that talent. She's an extremely talented woman. So of course, being like locked up, even if you're in a palace and you can't escape, you know, she would have been climbing the walls, because what was happening? Saturn was pressurizing the moon. And the moon is the mind. And Saturn is famous for causing depression and suicidal thoughts when he has a very close association with the moon. Yeah? And remember as well, the 3rd house is to do with travel of all kinds. So she's used to what? Being free. Jupiter in the 3rd house, planet of expansion and travel. She's a globetrotter. So suddenly to be a globetrotter, a woman of her own means, independently wealthy, rich, you know, as well as beautiful. Oh my God, no wonder people hate this woman. Yeah? Going around doing her stuff, doing her little bit in suits. Hardly anyone was paying any attention in terms of, we didn't even know in the UK, but my God, she was being paid well for it. And then suddenly she's in what? Boom, confinement. So for her, the confinement of the palace, even though it's a palace, you know, I mean, if you've only been out twice in 4 months, oh my God. I mean, that's serious. That's some serious lockdown. Yeah. I don't care what anyone says. Even by lockdown standards, that's a lot, because we can still go out every day, you know, jog on our own or whatever, you know, have a cup of coffee and, you know, smell some fresh air, bless. But anyway, but I'm just showing the energy. So once she was in that situation, it was like Saturn just gave her a lockdown on her life, and she lost what? Her freedom. Jupiter, yeah? And Pluto is what? Intense feelings and situations, yeah? So we can see there was always going to be something intense connected with Meghan around her communication and her travel, yeah? So it's remarkable. Anyway, I don't want to dwell too long. What else have I put here? Yeah, so she's very talented. Now, what's interesting here is when we get to Harry, but we will look at the overlap as well. I'll bring Harry's chart down and I'll talk about the overlaps. But his Saturn falls into a 4th house, which is the house of happiness, by the way. And I'll explain how that dynamic can work. But then let's go to the 5th house, which is the house of creativity and children. And we see here, Meghan has got Neptune retrograde in the 5th house. Yeah. Like a lot of people born like in the late 70s up through the 80s, yeah? I think once it hits like 88, we start to get over here. No, in fact, she was born 1981. It's at 28 degrees 43. So it would have been maybe from like 1982 or so. Neptune would have gone into Sagittarius. Anyway, I digress. Neptune is the planet of what? Lights, camera, action. The fifth house has got a lot to do with acting and performing as well, because it's relative to the fifth sign, Leo. Yeah, so they've got that element there. But you see, there is also, it goes retrograde. So there's some karma there that Meghan had to face around illusions. Yeah, remember as well, Neptune is the planet of illusions. And here as well, and it's in Jeshta, in Scorpio, which is also that section of Ophiuchus. Yeah? And as we know, what's Ophiuchus? It is the serpent priest or the serpent priestess. Yeah? What was everyone calling Meghan? Oh, she's bewitched him. She's got her fangs into him. She's stolen our Harry. Yeah? All of that kind of stuff. It also means, now it doesn't mean that she doesn't have that energy, but when we look, she's probably doing it in the higher, yeah? Because she's always been humanitarian and stuff like that. But this is very, very powerful because it gives a person a lot of spirituality, and it gives a kind of moral kind of leadership as well when you use it in the light. Now we know Donald Trump has this as well, but he uses it in the shadow. But either way, it's a very powerful position, yeah? But if we look here, we've got Uranus, yeah, in the fifth house, which is the house of what? Which is the planet of sudden shocks and surprises. Painful shocks and surprises that lead to some kind of revelation, yeah? But the fifth house is also the house of children. And what happened with Meghan, unfortunately, she suffered what? A miscarriage, yeah? You do see this. Also as well, when Ketu is in the fifth house, you can see this as well. I've seen this in clients' charts. So this obviously was a very unpleasant surprise. Of course, they're expecting and they're going to be having a baby girl in the summer, which is lovely. And you can see the children in both their charts. So this was all destined to happen. But of course, that was very shocking for her. And it's very shocking and upsetting for any woman to lose a child in that way. So she does deserve some compassion, you know, in that sense. It's a very traumatic experience. Right, so, but there we are. So we can see there was that element there. And then finally, when we look, oh, no, I thought she had Kala Sarpa Yoga, but almost, but not quite. Very bloody close though. Anyway, so we see here, she's got Ketu in the seventh house, which means that the partner is very devoted, actually. It's very devoted, but the partner may have to sacrifice something. Yeah? Because Rahu is in her first house, so it's about her. So it means that the partner has to make some kind of sacrifice for her because she's destined for self-actualization. And this happens all the time when there is a 1-7 axis. Sometimes it's the other way round. If you've got Ketu in the first house, then that person makes sacrifices for their partner. But for Meghan, she's got Rahu in the first as well, which also adds to the looks as well, by the way. So, and that's very interesting when we overlay that with Harry's chart. But just to round up, you see I put these lines here and I've put Mars in there. Mars is what? Planet of passion, yeah? Planet of desire. Planet of how we go about getting things done. However, Mars is also the planet of what? Conflict and war. And we see here that Meghan has got Mars in the enemy sign. Yeah, Mars's enemy is Mercury, planet Mercury. And whenever Mars is in the sign of Mercury signs, so this goes for Gemini and Virgo, there is a frisson. It's always this way for any planet when it's in an enemy sign. But this is very interesting in particular because her or Meghan's Mars is in Ardra, the teardrop. It is the nakshatra of storms, yeah, where one's life is turned upside down, yeah, and around and around. It's a tornado. It's like a tornado ripping through the middle of Kansas, yeah, and then some storms and rain and all that kind of stuff coming. So anyone that has got a planet in Ardra is likely to have a kind of a tumultuous life, but in particular when it's Mars. Yeah. Now, what's interesting, this is in her 12th house of secrets, yeah, and foreign lands. But remember, for the Cancer ascendant, Mars rules the 10th house and the 5th house of creativity, yeah? So this has got to do with her career as well. This is the creativity, this is the acting, this is the career. Also as well, if you look, there's Chiron here, the wounded healer. A wound to her career and public reputation and standing, because the 10th house is reputation and standing. So if you just read off 10th house, public duties, yeah, royal duties, as career, presidents, reputation, bosses, fame, father's wealth, honors, purpose, government, authority figures. And it's a Kendra, it's an angle, yeah, and she's got what? Chiron there. She's had this huge rise in status, and then what? The daggers started to be thrown and her public reputation was trashed. Yeah. And you know what happened is that because the ruler, the lord of the 10th and the 5th house is in the 12th house, which deals with what? Losses is part of it. So let's read here. 12th house. Escape and endings, loss, foreign lands, secrets, holidays overseas, confusion, spiritual retreats, hospitals, foreign income, prisons, secret affairs, bed pleasures, expenses, hidden enemies. Yeah, hidden enemies. Remember what she was talking about? Expenses. Yeah, it's cost a lot. Endings. Yeah. Watery places, surrender. Isn't it interesting? They live next to the sea. And it deals with addictions, the feet, and charity. Yeah? You see why? This is why I'm so passionate about Vedic astrology, because once you see these things, you just read the person's life. Yeah? So all of that has happened. She's had what? A tumultuous experience where once she married into the royal family, it became like a whirlwind, a storm. It was probably something she thought she could control, yeah, because she's got Hasta, yeah, because she's used to a high level of aptitude and self-control. She probably thought, oh, I can handle this. Oops, yeah. Ended up becoming a great source of loss. And like she said, and she didn't articulate, but she said a lot of things have been lost already. Yeah, because there, Mars in the 12th house in Ardra. However, the 12th house is also a house of spirituality. Yeah, Ardra, it's one along with Mula, but Ardra in particular is probably one of the toughest nakshatras in the zodiac. I mean, it's proper badass, that nakshatra. However, what it does is it has a tremendous amount of strength, because also the symbol for Ardra is the jewel. And what happens is that one is faceted by life's experiences and one is able to shine. And Ardra also has a huge potential for spiritual elevation. And not only that, her sun is in the nakshatra of Aslesha, which again is a part of Cancer, but it's associated with serpents, the Nagas, yeah? And hypnotism. But it's also about the esoteric. It's also about Kundalini. It's also about meditation. It's also about transcendence. So I would suspect with these storms that she's had, this is also spiritualized Meghan as well. And she's had to become what? Philosophical about certain things, because there's certain things you can't control. Let me just pour myself a bit more of my tea here. Keep the throat clear. So anyway, so that gives you an idea. And when we see where is it looking, it's looking at her 7th house where Ketu is. So Mars is giving a malefic glance here. So we know it would affect her relationships. Also as well, Mars is looking at the 6th house, which is what? Battles, yeah? Battles, yeah? But it also deals with health and stuff like that. And then Mars is also looking at her 3rd house of communication, yeah? So we can see here there are these challenges of communication, where also as well her communication could be misconstrued. Anyway, so if we look briefly at the Navamsha, so if we look here, And the Navamsha is actually very strong. This is the second half of 5 chart. So if we look here, Meghan, I want you to look at this. Uranus in the first house, yeah? She's also Cancerian in a Navamsha. She's a rebel, yeah? She's a rebel. And I think that is a big part of what drew Harry to her as well, because his mother was what? A rebel. Diana was one of the biggest rebels out there. Yes, she may have been the Queen of Hearts, but my God, she really was that Diana, had that Diana kind of Diana of the Hunt energy, yeah? She really used her princess power in the end, and I think Meghan will do something similar, but it will be with that from outside of the confines. Anyway, also as well, anyone who's got a planet in the 12th house will live abroad at some point in their life. Yeah, because this is about big distance travels, covering an ocean or a big expanse of land. She lived in Canada for 7 years. Yeah, Canada's a huge country. And of course, she spent time where? In the UK. Yeah, so she'll always be international. Now, I've said all that. Let's look at Harry's chart. Oh man, save the best for last. So if we look here, I'm just going to flip down. Now what you look for, what I'm going to be doing, this is called synastry. And you look to see where planets overlap in people's charts. And that can show the stickiness, you know, how much bonding is there. Yeah, there's so much more I could say, but it would end up being too long, this video. So, Harry. Now what we're looking for is planets that occupy the same house. You notice something? I actually should have done it in different colors. So if we look here, so Harry is a Capricorn ascendant, yeah? He is a Capricorn ascendant. And remember, the first house is very important. Look where Meghan's south node falls right into Harry's first house. Because his first house doesn't have a planet. Boom! Meghan is there. Fated. This is a fated relationship. They have a karma to share. And I think what part of that karma is about was, of course, with Wallis Simpson, yeah, and Bertie. Yeah, I think they called him Bertie as a nickname, but you know, the one that abdicated. Meghan was a divorcee, so was she. And they were both what? Raven-haired. Yeah, raven-haired. Now, and that's what has got a lot to do with this as well, for the whole dynamic with Meghan. So we see here some kind of fate is being completed. Yeah, they were supposed to be together. Look at this. Their ascendants are opposite each other. Capricorn is always opposite the sign of Cancer. She's a Cancer ascendant. He's a Capricorn ascendant. Yeah, this is a classic. This is a classic. And her Ketu is there, right in his first house. Yeah. So when we look at Harry's chart, I want to talk as well about his 12th house, yeah, which falls into Meghan's 6th. Now remember what I said. Anyone with planets in the 12th house can potentially live abroad. Yeah. So look, Meghan, Mars in the 12th house in Ardra. Harry, 2 planets in the 12th house in Moola. Guess what? Guess what the other nakshatra is that is the most fierce? Apart from Ardra, it's Moola. You can't make this up. Look, they're opposite. This is one of the most difficult and challenging parts of the zodiac. Yeah, anyone who's got planets in either Ardra or Moola will know some stress and suffering in their life. But it's also extremely spiritualizing. Now remember I said the 12th house is associated with foreign lands and going abroad. The symbol for Moola is roots, and it means tearing up by the roots. So if you've got 2 planets which are already in the house of what? Endings, escapes and foreign lands and tearing up by the roots, of course there was going to be a moment in Harry's life where he would be torn up by the roots and have to live abroad. You can't make this stuff up, but there it is. Also as well, I'll show you something. There is a Gemini technique, which is that the planet with the lowest degree is holds what we find most attractive in others. So in Harry's chart, it's called the Darakaka. In the Harry's chart, you see here, the planet with the lowest degree is Jupiter. Yeah? Jupiter is at 9 degrees 55 minutes in Harry's chart. So what does that mean? Jupiter is a planet of intelligence and worldliness and elevation and spirituality. Yeah? And charity as well. So it shows that Harry was always going to be attracted to someone like Meghan, who is worldly, expansive, charitable, intelligent. Yeah, that's a big, strong attraction for him. And this Jupiter is sitting where? In the 12th house. 12th house also deals with foreign lands. He was always destined to meet a foreigner, a foreign woman. Just as when we look here as well, Mars is a masculine planet, yeah, and can also represent the husband. We go back to Meghan's chart, a foreign man, yeah. What's so interesting is that Mars goes to Harry's first house in his Navamsha chart. This has got fate written all over it. But anyway, so I've put here in the notes, you'll see here, it's connected as well with Neptune. So we can see all is not well necessarily. There's this element of secrecy, or this element of something unconventional being there. But also as well, remember, Neptune is lights, camera, action. The film world. So it means you're going to meet someone who's associated with film. Yeah? But both are in the nakshatra of Mula. This person would have this effect of uprooting him, yeah? Because Meghan, of course, has completely changed his life, and he's changed hers. So anyway, so I've put here, Harry destined to live in foreign lands due to lies, yeah? Because Neptune can also deal with lies. Remember, they were talking about the lies, what? Against them, and they said this is why they left. You can literally see it here in the chart. But it also deals with spiritual freedom. Harry wanted to be free. Just like he said he wanted to be free. Anyone with a planet in the 12th house loves their freedom. Yeah? But particularly when you've got Jupiter there in its own sign of Sagittarius, because Mula falls into Sagittarius, that's a powerful desire to be free. Yeah? And yeah, and as I said, you know, because it's the Darakaka, you know, he was with a foreign woman. So you see, it's all there. It's all there. Also as well, if we look here at Harry's 11th house. Now remember, the 11th house is this. Let me just read this for you. So look, it's got Mars in there, yeah, which is a malefic energy. It's got Uranus in there, which is sudden shocks and surprises, but liberation. And it's also got Ketu there, which again can create losses. So there was always going to be some kind of loss around the 11th house area of life, which also deals with great gains, by the way. Yeah? Start to make sense. So when we look here, 11th house, what's the 11th house? Deals with hopes and dreams, great gains, attainment of desires, lump sums or large amounts of money, friends, eldest siblings, internet, humanitarianism, side hustle income, and groups and organizations of all kinds. Institutions. What's the firm? The royal family is what? An institution. Yeah? And Mars is a malefic influence, and so is Ketu. And, you know, Uranus is not always the most charming planet either, because it can bring sudden shocks. So there's been these shocks and surprises in institutions where there's been what? Malefic speech and talking, causing a loss for him. Yeah? Because what? He's been cut off from what? The great gains. He's been cut off from the money. Yeah? That's what happened. They were like, Harry, sorry if you go. Sorry, love. No money. So he's relying on what? What Diana gave him. Yeah? on his savings. And it's very interesting as well, because we see here he's got the moon in the 4th house, which is a great place to have the moon. But look, it's in Aries, yeah, which is about passion, yeah, passion, desire. He's a very passionate, emotional man, yeah, but he's also he's got great intuition and great emotional intelligence, yeah, because the moon is in the 4th house, which is its natural placement in the charts. The moon also deals with the mother, yeah, so it shows what? That the mother was what? A warrior of some kind, yeah, because look, it's in the sign of Aries. Aries. But it's also chemodrama moon, isolated moon. And when a person, this is a very common phenomena, but when there is no embodied planet either side, so we see here we've got Rahu, north node of the moon, doesn't count. And this house is empty and there's no one with the moon. So what that means is, that means that person feels isolated. In some aspect of their life, they feel isolated, even if they have company, yeah? The moon in the 4th house can also deal with real estate, so even, and big real estate as well. So even though this moon is actually strong, Harry was feeling isolated even though he had company. Yeah, what did he talk about with the palace? He said, I felt trapped. And he said Charles and William are trapped as well, but they just don't know it. So it's fascinating, isn't it? This also speaks of isolation as well, and going off to lands. Yeah, so even though Harry has this element where he feels isolated, he loves the idea of privacy as well. And it being he and Meghan, their children and the dogs. Yeah, he loves it. Loves it. And it's rejuvenating for him. Yeah, it's rejuvenating because he can find inner peace. He's satisfying that 12th house. So we see here, there's this going on. And let's look at as well Harry's 8th house. He's got a grand trine, by the way. He's got a fire trine, yeah. Sagittarius, Aries, Leo, yeah. But that can also be very psychic as well. But it means there's a lot of energy, a lot of restlessness there. And if we look at the 8th house, what does the 8th house do? So we've got the sun here, which is what? The kingdom. And then we've got Mercury, which is communication. And they're in the 8th house. What does the 8th house deal with? Deals with, you know, I call it the house of sex, death and rock and roll. So it deals with transformation, wills, surrender, life insurance, psychology, addictions, metaphysics, disgrace, inheritance, bankruptcy, taxes, money from others. Astrology, life force as well, psychology, all of the ologies as well, numerology, etc. But it also deals with what? Death. What happened that was a significant, and it deals with sudden changes. And it also deals with mentality, the mind, psychology. We have Mercury, the mechanism of the mind, in the 8th house, which makes a person dig a lot. But it also shows as well, like, you know, Harry mentioned, of course, his breakdown after his mother died. Yeah, suddenly. Because it was what? A car crash. Yeah. And it was part here in the you know, the sun, which is the kingdom. So it shows that a good deal of Harry's life is about transformation and transcendence and going through quite difficult experiences, but also being spiritualized by those experiences as well. Oh my God, my body temperature has just suddenly kind of gone up. Juicy stuff. And we see here his Mercury is in Magha, which is the throne, yeah, the Palatine. And Magha has got a lot to do with the ancestors. So he's literally having to fulfill some kind of destiny his ancestors were not able to complete. And Mercury is also known as the prince or the princess of the zodiac, of the planets. How funny is that? So we have the prince in a throne having to fulfill a destiny that some of his ancestors were not able to complete. So if we think of Wallace Simpson, yes, And if we think his name's just gone completely out of my head, but you know, the one that abdicated. And then if we think of Diana, this really in many ways has fallen to Harry. Yeah, because he's got in that nakshatra of Marga. And then he's got his son in a lovely place in Uttara Falguni, which is about managing the kingdom. Yeah, it's his responsibility. So to manage these situations that he finds himself in, yeah, in the main part of the chart. But if we go to the 9th house, his Venus is debilitated. Yeah, debilitated Venus. Oh dear, you know, tricky one. So I put here, Venus debilitated, there will be issues with the wife, but something beautiful will be built due to Chitra. Because it's in the nakshatra of Chitra, the divine architect. Yeah, so we see a pattern here, and his Venus falls on top of Meghan's planets here, of Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, and the moon. That is a lot of glue, by the way. Venus with Saturn is like that. Feeling, almost having no choice, going through such experiences that you just get kind of squashed together, yeah? But it can create a very strong bond. And then you'll see that Meghan's Venus falls between Harry's Mercury, his planet of communication, and his sun, the kingdom. Her Venus falls into his 8th house, yeah? So he's building his kingdom around her. This woman has come into his life and transformed his life, yeah, and he's building that kingdom around her. And then if we look back here with his Ketu and his Uranus, it's in Anuradha, which is the nakshatra of devotion, yeah. So he's had this sudden shock and devotion to someone that has come into his life and stirred things up a bit. It's a very strong bond. People will play. If you can get through this kind of stuff that they've been through, do you know what I mean? It's kind of, you know what else? You know, they've lost a child as well. You know, again, very difficult. That's very 8th house as well. Yeah, the wife will have to endure some kind of loss. Yeah. But that bonds people. That really does. When you can get through stuff like that, you can get through most stuff. So I'm not saying the marriage will last forever, but I think it's a bit premature that people just said, oh, you know, nah. When you look at this, there's a strong bond here. Anyway, I digress. So we see here, Venus represents the wife in a man's chart. So his Venus is debilitated. But Venus also represents all women. So this could also represent Diana as well. But not only that, it's in the 9th house, which is the house of the father. And there was a moment when they weren't talking. Yeah, but it also means as well that Harry is very passionate. He's very philosophical, and he's very passionate about healing others, because Venus is the planet of healing and it's in the sign of healing. And it means he's got a great attention to detail, but it can also as well make one quite critical. Yeah. Venus debilitated reduces one's capacity for diplomacy. Yeah. So this is the kind of thing that happens. What do? You end up sitting with a woman, Oprah. Yeah. Because Venus is women of all kinds, and dishing the dirt on your family. Yeah. This can be part of the manifestation. But he has a great desire to help people, as we've seen with the Invictus Games and all of that kind of stuff, because it's in the sign of Virgo, yeah? But remember what I was saying, how if a partner's got a damaged planet, then the other partner's planet can make up for it. So if we see here, yes, his Venus is debilitated, but Meghan's Venus is excellent. But let's looky here. Let's go to his 10th house, which is the house of pressure, like I said. Harry has got exalted Saturn in the 10th house with Pluto. Oh my God. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of scrutiny. Because people get very excited about exalted planets, but an exalted planet can also give you exalted problems. Yeah? And we can certainly say that's true for Harry. Also as well, the Shad Bala on Harry's chart. So here, the planetary strength through all the divisional charts, the Vargas, is off the chart. It's 614. Yeah? You'll be doing well, you know, you're doing well, quite well when it's in the 300s and so 614. So it means there's a tremendous amount of karma in his life, yeah? But also as well, Saturn is the planet of greatness. And what I think will happen in the end, with time, we're talking about over, you know, 20 odd years, if not more, Harry eventually is going to come out on top. And you know what? In the end, he'll be vindicated. You know, obviously in the UK, there's differing opinions, obviously, and he has a lot of support. But Harry is going to do a lot of good, yeah, if he sticks around. I'm sure he will. But that is just ridiculous. So he's got this exalted planet. But guess what? In Meghan's Navamsha chart, we look here. Saturn is in Aries, debilitated. So his Saturn is making up for the debilitation of Saturn in her Navamsha, which is the marriage charts, yeah? So do you see they're filling in each other's gaps, each other's weaknesses, yeah? Creates a strong bond, but also as well, Saturn debilitated breaks down boundaries, yeah? So people who've got debilitated Saturn often have boundary issues, or they can speak in a way that people may not find particularly pleasant because that element of reserve of Saturn is kind of a bit broken down, yeah? So again, so we can see here she's got a great gift for speaking, but not a lot of people like, of course, what she has to say. But in a way, she would have to have a Saturn debilitated, because if her Saturn was stronger, she would not have spoken out about what she'd experienced. Yeah, she would have just kept stum like that. I suspect Kate's probably got quite a strong Saturn. Let's put it that way. Because everyone goes through stuff. Everyone. But if we articulate or not, that is another thing. And with her, it's more natural to just kind of blurt it out. In fact, it's hard for her to keep it in. Often people will have debilitated Saturn. They just can't help. They have to. It's like heart on the sleeve type stuff. They can't hold it in. Yeah. So that gives an insight there. What else? We also see here as well that Harry's got in his 5th house. He's got Rahu. Yeah. Which can give very beautiful children, and it means he wants children. But again, we see here Chiron, a wound in regards to children, and of course they did lose a child. But there's also as well, they've got Ceres here, which also represents children as well in the 5th house. So he wants a family, and he's got his family, but they're going to stick to 2. So good, you know, good for them. What else can I say? So yeah, when we see here, going back to Harry's 12th house, he was literally always going to uproot Moolah and live in foreign lands, yeah? And cross what? An ocean. Now he lives in America and lives by the sea. Can't make it up. There you are. So it was always destined. Will he come back to live in the UK? Probably not. But will he visit at some point? Yeah, probably will. But I think things are going to have to simmer down after this, because let me tell you, I think there was quite a lot of tea that was spilt when certain people were sipping, you know, watching, you know, whatever, you know, and maybe 1 or 2 tiaras kind of thrown across the room, along with a Ming vase crashing against the far wall, yeah? Because that interview was a real kind of expose. So in terms of them, let me just see, let's talk a bit about Harry's Navamsha before I wrap up. So when we look here, Harry has got 3 planets in his 10th house. Moon with Saturn with Jupiter. Now we know that Moon-Saturn combination is not always the best. So he, of course, has struggled with his... oh, no, wait. That's Meghan. So we know she struggled with her mental health as well as Harry. But if we go here, but to have 3 planets in a 10th in your Navamsha is very powerful. And she's also got Mars, Ketu and Neptune in the 9th in Pisces. So it's like, wow, spiritual warrior and very intuitive. So for Harry's Navamsha, he's got Mars in the 1st house, which gives a lot of passion, a lot of courage, with Rahu. So this time in his second half of life, it becomes more about him and what he wants to give to the world, yeah? So Harry's going to get stronger with age. He's also got the ruler of the first house in the second. This is another money yoga, yeah? So it means with time, he's going to find a way to earn money for the family. And then when we look at his 10th house, he's got Uranus in the 10th. So that means he's going to do something unusual, something innovative. What have I put here? So Harry doing something unusual or unconventional for career. And then here there is an interest in physics, text, and possibly even astrology. Yeah, he looks at that stuff. He's got, anyone who's got a trine between their psychic houses is interested in this stuff, without a doubt. He would never come out and say it in publicly, but I think he knows a tarot card or two. Let's put it that way. And when we look at his 5th house, in the Navamsha here, 5th house, he's got Jupiter in Gemini, but the 5th house is children. So it means Jupiter is a masculine planet, Gemini is a masculine sign. So this is the sun. So it means that the sun is going to be intelligent and Jupiterian in some kind of way, expansive and curious about the world, and maybe even a little bit of a yogi when he gets older. They're expecting a daughter. So when you look down at the next house, you look at the 7th house, because the 5th house is the first child. The 7th house, I think, is the second child. I need to double check that. But anyway, Venus here in the 7th house. And Venus is what? Women. So this is the girl. Yeah. And the girl is also in Magha. So she's got some destiny as well. And it's in the sign of Leo. I think she's going to be an actress, yeah, or an artist or a painter or something like that. I think she's going to take after Meghan. She's going to take after Meghan in that kind of form. And what else as well to look here as well? We see as well that Harry's got planets in his 11th house of great gains, and he's got the sun and the moon in there with Pluto. So that's something very powerful, transformative. It's in the sign of Sagittarius. So it's going to be expansive. There is this plan to go out into the world and nurture. It's that new moon energy. It's that kind of new moon energy where it's about initiating new and interesting things. And it's also as well in kind of Purvarashada as well, which is, you know, the victory, you know, so there is this element of Harry's going to triumph in the end. And what's very interesting is he's got his Ceres, you know, in the 12th house in his Navamsha. So that's the children. So I've put here, the children are treated as foreigners. Yeah. The children are treated as foreigners, and they now have become that. This baby is going to be born abroad as well, you know, by the firm, but they will live a life abroad as if in exile, but they'll be very worldly as well. And what's also interesting when you look at Meghan's chart, so there we are, Ceres, which can represent children in the 12th house in Harry's charts. Ceres is in the 12th house in Meghan's charts as well, you see? So it's the same thing, the energies have come together. This is fascinating. What else is there to say? So you know what, in the end, it's been difficult. It has been challenging for them. Will there be more challenges? Yes, likely, because they both have elements of challenge in their chart. But what will happen is as they come more into themselves, as they mature, as they get older, particularly when they get into their 40s, Meghan's going to get there first. Of course, she's going to be 40 this year in August. As they mature, they're going to settle into things, and as their family grows and the children get older, so really in their later 40s and stuff, they're really going to start coming into their power, and they're going to be doing a lot of humanitarian stuff as they kind of go along. Will they divorce? Well, this is interesting. Meghan does have Uranus in the 1st house, which means it does then, in terms of the Navamsha, which means it aspects the 7th house. But if they were to, it wouldn't be yet. And I just don't quite see it happening. They've been through a lot. And I think, if anything, what's happened is it's galvanized their marriage, not separated it. Staying in the UK probably would have ended it, because, you know, Meghan said she didn't want to be here. Yeah, imagine that. So it would have, if it would have ended, it would have ended tragically. Yeah. But now I think things are better. They're both in a place where they can kind of breathe a little bit more, and irrespective of what people, you know, think about the two of them. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. They have been through quite a lot. It's a big deal, you know, to just leave. They didn't just up and leave. They were talking to the Queen for years, turns out. Yeah. Oh, the Queen was blindsided. No, not true. Not true. And that was a big thing that was used against them. So we can, you know, when you look at the chart, when you look at the headlines, you know, basically they're telling the truth. But is Meghan completely innocent? No, of course not. There's a lot of hasta there. But at the same time, she's no monster. You know, she's no monster, and she's been demonized a lot. So, so some of those things that may have been mentioned about her, because, you know, her family was like, oh, she's very manipulative, you know, that there is that hasta energy there, but she's not a monster. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it was Harry's choice to leave, and it was destined. Yeah. Because he's got 2 planets in the 12th house, and she's got Mars in the 12th house. They were always going to be abroad. It's part of their karma. They are resolving deep karmas and certain things that they've been put here on earth, particularly in regards to the royal family. So I will leave it there. If anyone would like a consultation with me, I'm sure I've gone way over now. It's probably longer than an hour, whatever. If anyone would like a consultation with me, then of course, please visit my website. Remember to click the like and subscribe, and hit the bell notification as well, so you're notified of more videos when they come up. And I'll also look as well into shadow as well, and how shadow is part of manifestation. But I had to do this Harry Meghan special deep dive. So thanks so much, everyone. Quite a long video, but I covered 2 charts, and we just had to go there. And let's see what happens next. But you know what? I wish them the best. Not an easy scenario to be in. And I hope they're, you know, they're happy, and the baby arrives safely, and that they can find their way in the world. Anyway, namaste.